going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to switch up, go to the MLB, make some award predictions, some players to keep a watch on for MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and then give a few teams that I'm interested to see perform throughout the season in both the AL and the NL. I wanted to first thank everyone for their support on my Draft Sleepers video. I'm working on the and the I know that I do it. I'm working on it. I'm sorry that I do it. I know that it gets annoying for some people. I'm working on it. I apologize. So, without further ado, let's get into some of my Rookie of the Year predictions. So, I wanted to start off with Wyatt Langford, because mainly Jackson Holliday didn't make the opening day roster and Wyatt Langford did. He kind of came out of nowhere, not really coming out of nowhere, but his rise to the MLB has been a very quick one. It kind of reminds me of someone like Juan Soto's rise to the MLB, just absolutely tearing up the minor leagues and then making the MLB opening day roster here in 2024. I look to see him make an immediate impact in the Rangers lineup and post some very good offensive stats. He is a very promising hitting prospect, and I see him if he doesn't run away with the AL Rookie of the Year award, it'll be because someone else took it from him. Now here's another guy with rookie eligibility, Evan Carter. He came into the Rangers lineup at the end of last year and absolutely tore up the MLB scene, posting positive or over a 300 batting average and a 1 OPS, which is MVP level statistics. If he even comes close to these numbers, it'll be tough to beat him in the AL or Rookie of the Year race. I look to see Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter bring a very fresh look to this lineup and honestly become centerpieces, maybe 3-4 hitters if Seager didn't exist. Now, Jackson Holliday didn't make the opening day roster for the Baltimore Orioles, but his talent is undeniable. He kind of came into his draft class as not knowing whether or not he was going to be able to perform hitting at this level with his more slender frame and his lack of weight. But we see guys with that type of frame, super talented hitters like Yelich. You look at Bellinger; they're both skinnier dudes that have performed very well at the highest level. And you kind of see Jackson Holliday with that compact, very powerful swing for a skinny dude. I look to see him make the MLB roster. It's more of a matter of when, not if, and whether or not he's going to get enough time to be in that Rookie of the Year race. But I like his odds. I think the Rangers guys definitely have a big edge on him being on the opening day roster. Now here is one of Jackson Holliday's teammates, Colton Cowser, that you expect to take that leap that he hasn't quite seen in the professional scene yet. The Orioles have had a string of taking very talented college hitters. You look at guys like Adley Rutschman when you think of that, and Colton Cowser is definitely one of those guys. He was an insanely good hitter in college, and he really hasn't seen that leap that you're kind of expecting from a number 5 overall pick in the draft. He has exceptional raw talent when it comes to hitting. He's a great fielder. He's got very good speed. I wouldn't say great, but he has good speed, and you're really expecting, as an Orioles fan, him to take that leap in 2024 to be in that contention as a Rookie of the Year candidate. Okay, switching over to the NL Rookie of the Year side, it would not be a list without Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the frontrunner for the Rookie of the Year in the National League. His career numbers in ERA were 1.72 in the NPB with a .915 whip. This guy's stuff is disgusting. We saw it in the World Baseball Classic. He will be successful, although he did have a bad first start in Korea. I expect Yamamoto to bounce back in a big way. I expect him to really get hot once he kind of settles into his role, and I expect to see a sub 3 ERA from him, if not this year, in the future, but a solid season from him will most likely get him the Rookie of the Year without a ton of competition in the NL this year. Now, it wouldn't be a good list without mentioning the Korean signing of the San Francisco Giants, Jung-Hoo Lee. Career 340 hitter with an 898 OPS in Korea. A very talented hitter. I'd like to see how it translates. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. You look at guys like Norichika Aoki, you look at guys like Ichiro Suzuki. Sometimes it translates super well, sometimes not so much. You look to him to make a really much needed boost in this San Francisco Giants lineup as they try to push and contend with other teams in the NL West like the Dodgers and the Padres with their star power that those teams have. Jung-Hoo Lee, I'm looking to see a 300 plus average. I'm not expecting very good power numbers as we typically see when players transition from the Korean League to the MLB, but I'm expecting very solid numbers and a top of the lineup hitter that can get on base for your better hitters. All right, when you're thinking front runners, you think Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Jung-Hoo Lee, but when you're thinking of dark horse contenders, Jackson Chourio is the number one guy. He has all the tools to be an incredible player. He has the potential to be a player like Ronald Acuna. We've seen spurts of it in the minor leagues over the past 5 seasons, but you'd like to see a big leap in hitting performance as he's kind of struggled in Double-A and Triple-A, but he's been really good in spring training so far. He makes the opening day roster because of that deal that kind of it doesn't really get rid of that 6-year control that teams are mostly worried about when they call up younger guys, but a very young player, very raw. He has the potential. It's just a matter of if he can reach that potential in year one and win Rookie of the Year. Last guy I want to talk about is Paul Skeens, the LSU pitcher that jumped his teammate Dylan Cruz to be the number one overall pick for the Pittsburgh Pirates. This guy's huge. He throws absolute gas. A standout pitcher at LSU in his senior season, really took a jump from his junior to senior season. I think he was in the mid threes in terms of ERA to low twos in his senior year. He's a very clutch pitcher. He's got some very good stuff. He didn't make the opening day roster, which is always a knock when it comes to preseason Rookie of the Year predictions and the watch and whether or not you think he can win it or not. But I expect him to kind of develop throughout the season and get better and develop his stuff a little more. I'm hoping that he gets called up in May, hopefully April, and we get to see him compete with Yoshinobu Yamamoto for that Rookie of the Year as a pitcher. Moving on to the NL Cy Young, first guy I want to mention is Spencer Strider. Had a down year in 2023 to his standards. Very good advanced statistics. The ERA wasn't quite there, but he destroyed the rest of the league in strikeouts. He has the sexiest thighs in the MLB and the sexiest mustache as well. He has incredible strikeout stuff. His fastball is very high in spin rate with a max velocity of over 100 miles per hour. His secondary pitches are just as good, if not better. I'm looking at him to really take that step up in his third season and lower that ERA so we can see a very, very good performance over the course of the year. I'm looking for potential 300 strikeouts with enough volume. We know that teams are kind of transitioning into more of a safety precautionary role with their starters, not playing them as much and looking to that bullpen to really lean on for a majority of the game. But I'd like to see Strider really put out those numbers. I think that it will help him in his Cy Young case. I think that he easily has the stuff to have a sub 3 ERA once again with 300 plus strikeouts and take home his first National League Cy Young award. Another candidate for the 2024 National League Cy Young, Zach Wheeler, a guy that had 3 straight seasons from 2020 to 2022 of a sub 3 ERA. He had a down year to his standards in 2023, although it was still solid. 3.6 ERA is not close to what he considers a good year. He is his own biggest critic. I think that he knows he's not quite where he wants to be in terms of performance. Um, expect him to take a jump just like I expect Spencer Strider to take that jump back to his sub 3 days and assert himself as one of the most dominant starters in the National League and contend for the Cy Young. Next up is Zach Gallen, another guy who kind of struggled towards the end of the 2023 season, and if it wasn't for those struggles, he probably would have won it. Alongside the run that Blake Snell went on towards the end of the season, really screwed him out of potentially his first National League Cy Young award. There's no doubt that Zach Gallen is one of the most dominant pitchers in clutch time. He performs on the highest levels. I expect him to bring his ERA back down to his 2022 levels of mid two fives and assert himself once again, just like Zach Wheeler, just like Spencer Strider. I'm not really sure what happened towards the end of the season because this guy was one of the most dominant pitchers at the beginning half of 2023. I expect him to get back to that standard that he sets himself at and dominate this season. All right, now that we've asserted some of the favorites, I want to give some dark horse contenders. I'm not looking at Blake Snell on the San Francisco Giants rotation. I'm looking at Logan Webb. This guy has one of the most disgusting pitches in the MLB in his sinker changeup thing. I don't really know what to call it. I don't know what it is, but it's like a frisbee. I mean, it's actually insane how it moves. His 2022 season was fantastic. His 2023 season was very good. He was in that contending for the Cy Young Award towards the end of the season, but it was kind of going under the radar. And that's kind of what I think he is seen as, just an under the radar pitcher. I think that he can come out of nowhere and really shock the world with a fantastic 2024 season. He has strikeout numbers, his ERA is great. If he gets run support, I think that the win-loss isn't really helping him. I know guys like DeGrom kind of dealt with that for a long time in New York. I think that Logan Webb easily has the talent to be in the running for the Cy Young this year. Another very dark horse contender, Freddie Peralta of the Milwaukee Brewers. This guy's strikeout numbers per nine are incredible. It looks like a reliever's strikeouts per nine. His problem is control. He has a lot of walks, a lot of home runs given up. If he brings those numbers down, his ERA will go down, and he will become a legitimate contender for the Cy Young. I expect him to really take a step up without Corbin Burns in the rotation with him, without Brandon Woodruff in the rotation with him, at least for this year, with him out for an injury. I think that Freddie being an ace, under the pressure, he performs. I like his odds. I'm not saying that he's going to be in the running, but I'm saying if he gets his control right, I really think that he is one of the most talented pitchers in the MLB. Here's another very underrated pickup by the Los Angeles Dodgers. You could really highlight any of the Los Angeles Dodgers starters, but I wanted to give you some dark horse candidates. Tyler Glasnow hasn't played a healthy season in his entire career, but the last time he was healthy, he put out a 2.66 ERA with a .93 WHIP. Those are numbers of a Cy Young performance. If he gets healthy, if he gets back to his old ways, this guy is one of the most disgusting pitchers with the most filthy pitches in the MLB. One of the most underrated pickups of the offseason by far. I love Tyler Glasnow. He got paid without playing a full season. Like, that's how talented this guy is. The MLB scene knows it, and I'm excited to see him fully healthy. I really hope he doesn't get hurt. I would hate to see it. I think a lot of MLB fans would hate to see it. Rooting for Tyler Glasnow. I wish he wasn't a Dodger. We can't always get what we want, but he is one of the most talented pitchers in the MLB that we have. I expect him with a fully healthy season, obviously, to be in the contention for a Cy Young award as well. Moving on over to the AL Cy Young watch list. I love Corbin Burns. We just talked about Freddie Peralta. Corbin Burns had a Cy Young season in 2021. He had a great season in 2022 where his advanced statistics were just as good, if not better than 2021 and 2023. Although it was a down year, he still had some incredible advanced statistics, just wasn't getting quite as lucky as you would like to see. Obviously, Corbin Burns, still that cutter and the sinker combo is one of the most filthy combos that we see in the MLB. His growth and development throughout his career is going to be studied for years. He went to one of the worst pitchers in 2019 to one of the most dominant from 2020 on, and it's all because of his cutter. You can look it up. He talks about it all the time. If he did not develop that cutter, he would not be in the MLB right now. That's how bad he was. So I looked to him to lean on those pitches. I looked to him to be as consistent as he has been for the last 4 years and assert himself as the ace of the Baltimore Orioles rotation and help them in their quest for a World Series title. Got to talk about the defending champ, Garrett Cole. I know we didn't talk about Blake Snell, but I love Logan Webb that much, and I didn't really want to dabble with two guys from the same team. Garrett Cole, phenomenal pitcher. The fact that he does it in New York with such a hitter-friendly stadium is so impressive. That's another thing I didn't really talk about with Corbin Burns. He's moving to such a pitcher-friendly stadium that it's really going to help him as well. Garrett Cole putting up the season that he did last year in a stadium like Yankee Stadium is that much more impressive. His K numbers are obviously insanely high. You'd like to see the home run per nine come down a little bit, but if he stays as consistent as he has throughout his career, you like to see him repeat. Obviously, it's not right to expect a Cy Young performance every single year, but this guy has kind of played to that standard his entire career. So you like to see at least a contention. If not, maybe he goes back to back. Next up on the list, we got Shane Bieber, another guy coming off of an injury just like Tyler Glass now. I think he's getting overlooked. I think last time he was healthy, he had a 2.88 ERA. In 2020, we saw him go on one of the best stretches that we've seen in recent times and winning that Cy Young. I think this year he gets back to that dominant way. We could see him go for his second Cy Young. I really like Shane Bieber. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the MLB. He's got one of the most disgusting secondary pitches in the entire league in that curveball. I like to see him fully healthy for the entire season. With that being said, that's kind of how all these pitchers are. Some of them have injury history, but we know when they're healthy, they are the most disgusting pitchers that we've seen. And I like Shane Bieber's odds if he can stay healthy to win his second AL Cy Young. Next up on the list is Kevin Gausman of the Toronto Blue Jays. This was a very underrated signing, I think, and I think it got overlooked because of the advanced age of Mr. Gausman. He has, just like Corbin Burns, developed that changeup, just developing that go-to pitch where you can always lean on is crucial for these starters because Gosman really took a step up after he developed that pitch. We know that he really struggled with the Orioles and he wasn't very good. But once he kind of developed that changeup to the point where it's at now, he became Cy Young contender. In 2021, we know that he obviously lost to Corbin Burns, but he was in contention for that Cy Young award for basically the entire season up until the end. 2022 wasn't as great of a year, obviously, but still mid 3 ERA. And then this past season, obviously an all-star, back close, hovering around 3. Also in Cy Young contention, I think he might have been second or third in voting. Obviously, Garrett Cole won it, but he has been insanely consistent over the past 3 seasons. You like to see him continue his ways, and maybe he breaks out once again and wins his first Cy Young. It would be really one of the greater stories in terms of growth and development in a career. He struggled so much in Baltimore. I really like this guy. Moving on to the American League MVP, first guy on the list, Juan Soto. You see him here. This guy's discipline needs to be studied. From the tender age of 19 years old, he had the best eye in the MLB. I think he's the greatest hitter of our generation. I don't know why he gets hate. I honestly don't. He every year puts up stats that are just absurdly good. Um, although he doesn't always show the best production, his on base percentage is consistently 400 plus. His slugging is consistently 500 plus, which means his OPS is consistently 900 plus. He's led the league with walks 3 times. He's a 3-time All-Star. I think he should have won the MVP in 2021. I think he should have won the MVP in the COVID season. Obviously, he didn't have the power numbers really, but um, I think this guy, in terms of his hitting statistics, is one of the most talented guys we're going to see in the next 50 years. I mean, this guy's discipline is insane. His understanding of the strike zone, there's no one close to him. So I like his odds a lot, especially with that short porch. You see him hit a home run in Yankee Stadium here. I like his odds. I'd like to see his power numbers increase quite a bit this year. You know, he had 35 home runs this past season, I believe. I'd like to see him 45 plus with the short porch. I think it's very doable for him, especially getting off to this as slow of a start as he did last year. When we're talking AL MVP candidates, you can't make a watch list without the Mike Trout. 11-time All-Star, 7 times finishing in the top 2 of the MVP. He's won the award 3 times already, Rookie of the Year as well. This guy's consistency is quite incredible, consistently playing as a top 3, top 2, if not top 1 player in the Major League Baseball. I think that last year was obviously to his standards quite awful, but he still had an 850 OPS, even being the worst season that he's ever had by far. You like to see him back over that 1 OPS mark that he is usually at. The one thing that I will say is the MVP award does take into account how good your team is, unfortunately. So they're not going to just give it to him because he's the best player. They take to account that playoff standings and record of the team. Um, so maybe he'd have more MVPs if that was the case, but that's definitely a factor that works against him. So my third guy on the list is going to be Corey Seager of the Texas Rangers. You know, they have 2 guys on the Rookie of the Year watch list already. For me, personally, this guy in 2023 put up some of the best statistics in the entire league in a shortened season for him. He played 120 games. He led the league in doubles, hit 33 home runs, had 96 RBIs. He had a 330 average with a 101 OPS. If he gets an entire season, you know, I think he obviously can't compete with the season that Shohei Ohtani had last year, but without Ohtani, this guy runs away with the MVP, and he played a month less than everyone else. The season that this guy put together was unfathomable. A very talented player. You like to see him continue it in 2024. That's why he's on my watch list. I think last season it was pretty unfair that he had to compete with Ohtani because it was an MVP level performance. Fourth guy on my AL watch list, I wanted to get a little dark horsey on you again. Kyle Tucker has been very consistent for the Houston Astros. And although I'm not a fan of the Houston Astros as a team, as I'm sure a lot of people aren't, he's been one of the most consistent players in their lineup, consistent 800 plus OPS. If you take out 2022, he's been over 840 every season that he's been in the MLB. He's had some spurts where he's been over 1,000, and his average has been very consistent, hovering around that 270 to 300 mark. His power numbers have been very good. He's clutch. He has a lot of RBIs. I think the volume is there for an MVP season. He just needs to bring those on base slugging. He needs to rise those a little bit so that he can be in contention with guys like Mike Trout, Corey Seager, Juan Soto. Next guy on the list is J-Rod. I mean, for a guy who struggled for a majority of the season, he put together some very impressive numbers. His on base and slugging isn't really where you want to see it out of an MVP, but you know, the stretch that he had towards the end of the season, if he stays as consistent with those numbers, you like his odds to be in the running. He's like a Ronald Acuna light last year, and I could easily see him hit those Ronald Acuna numbers. 32 home runs, 37 steals. His walks weren't really where you want to see him in terms of getting on base as much as you'd like to see someone get on base with only a 330 on base percentage. You like to see him kind of get more patient this year, draw more walks. Maybe he strikes out more, but that's okay. That's kind of where the MLB is now. But he steals a lot. He's obviously a five-tool player with the batting, the fielding, the speed. All right, another guy who, kind of is going to go as far as his team lets him. Um, the Royals don't win a lot, so Bobby Witt's chances aren't very high. But um, the stretch that he had towards the end of the season, he was, a top five player in the MLB. That's how good he was playing. 350 average, 1.1 OPS in the last 2 months of the season. His speed numbers are there. His power numbers are there. This guy is one of the best hitters in the MLB at a position where, it's kind of obviously it's more common now to see a shortstop as a talented hitter, but this guy is one of my favorite players in the MLB. He's got a very, very beautiful swing. He is, I think, in terms of that MLB Statcast, he's top five in terms of speed. As you see this inside the park home run right here. Uh, I love Bobby Witt. I think that he is one of the best players that we'll see in terms of like a complete player. He reminds me a lot of Trey Turner, but with more power. So there's a good comparison for you. I'd like to see him reach that 40 home run mark. That'll help him a lot if he, hits some of those milestones for a season. 40 home runs. Maybe we see a 40-40 season from him. That'll help him, increase his odds. But with the competition in the field this year, you really need to make the playoffs to also, lock in that MVP, or at least have a contender in terms of getting to the playoffs. When we're talking complete players, there's no other complete player like Mookie Betts making the move to shortstop this year. Another guy who just had an incredible season in 2023, but it got overlooked because of Ronald Acuna. This guy would have won MVP every other season if it wasn't for Ronald Acuna. Um, you like to you like to see him continue his dominance. He's a very talented hitter, although he didn't put together the greatest playoff performance. Um, he had one of the better regular seasons in recent memory, and you'd like to see him continue that, especially with Shohei Ohtani in the lineup now. This Dodgers lineup is terrifying with Freddie Freeman, Mookie, and Shohei Ohtani. And speaking of Shohei Ohtani, our next NL MVP contender is Shohei. Putting together some of the most historic performances we have ever seen in the MLB, pitching as a Cy Young pitcher, hitting as an MVP hitter. This guy is just, uh, I mean, it gets said all the time, he is a unicorn. We'll never see someone like him again. He is hitting for contact, for power. He is one of the fastest players. He throws 102. He has developed his secondary pitches to, you know, lean on when he can't locate his fastball. Uh, Although he won't be pitching this year, I believe he's still not pitching this year. His hitting will still be um, very impactful. Although it's kind of hard to win MVP as a designated hitter, which is why I didn't put guys like, you know, Yordan Alvarez on this list. I think Shohei still has a chance. If he focuses solely on hitting, he needs to put together quite a performance, but he could still get it done. I wouldn't be shocked if he put together a good enough performance as a designated hitter to win MVP. An NL MVP list wouldn't feel right without putting Bryce Harper on it. The 2015 MVP, 2022 MVP. His 2015 season was remarkable. Um, One of the best seasons we've ever seen. Bryce Harper, I love him so much. I mean, he is a fantastic player. He plays with such a high motor. He's one of the clutchest hitters we've ever seen. A lot of people say he's overpaid, but the guy consistently puts together these fantastic seasons as some of the best hitting performances we've seen. Just in terms of consistency, I like to see him hit for a little more power than he did last year so that, the voters will take him a little more seriously. Obviously stepping into that first baseman role will help him as a hitter, not as much stress on the body. Um, but yeah, Bryce Harper obviously a contender as always. Okay, next up on the list, we got Corbin Carroll, Rookie of the Year in 2023. This guy's statistics were very, very good. Um, you know, North of 860 OPS, north of 280 batting average, 25 home runs, 54 steals. You like to see him continue to steal bases. You like to see his power numbers raise a little bit. His OPS will come up with that. You like to see him hit for a little more average. I think if he takes those steps, obviously it's asking a lot of him. He's one of the best fielders we've seen. He's one of the fastest players in the MLB. I'm a really big fan of Corbin Carroll. I think, if he takes those steps, he could easily be in contention for his first MVP award. You may have thought I forgot him, but of course, I would never make this list without mentioning Ronald Acuna. 40 home runs, 70 steals, leading the league in OPS, on base percentage, hits, runs, at bats. He led the league in caught stealings too, but that doesn't matter as much when you steal 73 bases. He hit for power. He had the steals. He had a 340 batting average. You don't expect him to put together that historic of a performance 2 years in a row, but even coming close to that would still put you in contention for an MVP. And Acuna has always been one of the guys that we've said has the ability to do these things. He went out and did it in 2023, and I mean, it was impressive, but were we shocked? I mean, he has power. We know he has speed, and we saw it all on display last year to the fullest of his potential. And you like to see him get close to it again in 2024 to maybe go back to back in terms of an MVP award. I know it was a long video. There was a lot to take in, a lot of players that I wanted to mention. There's a lot of players that I didn't get to mention. Um, Maybe I should have broken this video down into a few pieces. That's fine though. That's fine. Drink a coffee, come back, watch a different part later. It is what it is. Um, if you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Say how many times I said because I know I say it a lot, and I'm sorry. I'm working on it. I know I said it less than the draft sleepers video, so I have that going for me at least. But thank you for watching. Thank you for the support recently. I appreciate it a lot. We'll see you in the next video.